Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's going to be reviewing the Toyota Sequoia Platinum, and we're going to be talking about why these new Sequoias are sold out. You probably noticed when you go to a Toyota dealership, you'll see some Tundras, you'll see some Tacomas, but you pretty much never see Sequoias. We'll talk about it. Before we get into this video, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to the Brent Brown Toyota here in Orem for giving me some time with the Sequoia. I'll include a link to the website in the description down below so you can check out what they have currently. I'll also include a link to my car buying guide. Let's get into it. Powering this is a twin-turbo 3.4-liter V6 that's paired to a hybrid and a 10-speed. Fuel economy is 19 around town and then 22 on the highway, with power outputs being 437 horsepower and then 583 pound-feet of torque. And now, before we move forward with this review, I do want to mention, if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Starting with the hood, you can see it's raised on either side, and then being, well, the hybrid, you've got your iForce Max badge. It's needed, of course. I think that's pretty cool with the turn signal indicator. And then this has a much more reasonably sized grille compared to the Tundra. It's like why a lot of people like the Sequoia, and a lot of people have suggested the Tundra should swap out for this kind of front end design. The one downside of the Sequoia is the air dam is absolutely enormous. Like, it's probably the lowest hanging I've ever seen on a vehicle. Now, our turn wheel setup is 265 by 60 by 20 in the front and over in the rear. And you can see here with the wheels, you've got the metallic gray, which I think looks pretty darn sharp. You've got these cool chunky fender flares, which blacked out, so it creates some nice contrast. Of course, you got your platinum badge there on the side. And then funny enough, so this one doesn't have the off-road package, but then it has the off-road roof rack. So it's kind of a weird spec if you ask me. Now take a look at the key fob, pretty straightforward. The most important feature is you can open up the hatch just with the fob. And I like how this one is already set up for display. So this is the tray that I always talk about in Sequoia reviews that you can move along the shelves, because you can see that you've got the battery pack set up. We also have a solid rear axle, and then you have the seats on top of that. So folding down the seats, for example, you just don't get a flat load floor. So this allows you to have it, but it's, yeah, still kind of a wonky thing, but at least they have some sort of, it's like they have this whole setup and they're like, crap, we got to figure out a solution, and then this is the solution. Anyways, the seats, you can fold them down. And then you got an outlet, and they still don't have like an extended version of this, like the Suburban, for example. They don't have a Suburban version of the Sequoia, which it'd be cool if they had that. But anyways, let's press that, and that will lower it back down. And this leads us to the tail lights. So I think they're really cool looking with the kind of overall theme there. And then you can pop the window. It's like a Land Cruiser. It's another cool feature. Blacked out Sequoia badge there. It's the rest of the rear. And then popping inside, we've got a sunshade here in the back, and then nice kind of like blue stitching throughout. And then here are the seats perforated all down the center portion. And I'm gonna grab this quickly. So the back seats, I am not gonna pop back there because I basically don't, I mean, I kind of fit, but not really. So they do have nice trim on them, easy to clean. So for kids, they're great. But you'll notice that the floor is high, so their knees kind of get bumped up a bit, which is a little bit of a downside. And then on top of that, because everything's higher headroom, it's not horrible, but it's not as good. So third row, kids, 100%. Anyways, let's pop in. Second rows, you can easily fit. I mean, you can see you can fit adults. Got a little storage pocket there. Got some cup holders. And then you guys can see down below the climate controls, USB ports, and all of that. And then you can see the roof line here does come down a little bit because of the panoramic sunroof. And then this leads us up front. And yeah, more of that nice trim. Got all of our window controls here. The mirrors do power fold in. You've got memory seats. And you've got blind spot monitoring with the mirrors. And then this does have truck-like capabilities. So 1290 for the payload capacity, which is solid. And then perforated all down the center, the blue stitching, all the adjustments, and apparently you can get massaging seats with this now, which this one, I don't think this one has it. I'll have to check the sticker and everything. We do have a heated steering wheel though, which is nice, and then steering wheel is power adjustable. Now taking a look at the steering wheel, you can see that it's perforated on either side. Got some nice trim at the top and at the bottom. A bunch of practical controls in the front, including adaptive cruise control. Got your volume and voice command controls as well. I like the kind of stitching there. And then regular stocks here in the back. So they keep things traditional. It's one of the things I like about Toyota is they don't change too much. But we do have this digital gauge cluster, which you can see different bits of info on systems within the car. And then this is also where the drive modes will pop up. You just have a few different modes for on-road driving. This does come with a nice 360 camera system, which I think is probably a must because this is a big 3-row SUV, so it's good to be able to see out of all the different angles. And yeah, Toyota's new infotainment system. I live with this now because I've got a new Land Cruiser, and it's pretty good. It's not the quickest to respond, but it gets the job done, and overall I think it's pretty user-friendly. This does also come with a heads-up display. We also have soft touch trim all across the dash, down below as well. And then we've got the glove box here. We've got our climate controls here for the front and also for the rear. Heated, cooled seats as well. And then you can see with the stability control, and then just turn on the 360 camera. Shifter there for the 10-speed, phone charging pad. And then we have our drive mode select here, drive line as well. Got this nice trim. Center console setups, cool. So you got that, and then you got the window, and you have the inside as well. But yeah, nice trim all throughout. Camera rear view mirror as well, and then we do have a power sliding window. And then at the very top we have our controls here for the panoramic sunroof and black headliner. Now let's take a look at the window sticker here. You guys can see 2025. Most everything's standard. TRD roof rack, $1395 for those you wondering on the pricing on that. $84,643. So, yeah, pretty big price tag, but let's talk about why these things are selling out. Well, let us set off, and for those of you that are wondering visibility, throughout the rear it's not the best, but the camera rear view mirror fixes that. So, Sequoia Platinum. It's weird. I think I've only reviewed Platinums for this model year. Because, no, I did a TRD off-road. No, sorry, TRD Pro. But I did a Platinum with the off-road TRD Pro. I need to get like an SR5. It's hard to find them though, because again, the Sequoias instantly sell. Let's talk about that first, and then we'll talk about the driving. Let's flip-flop it, right? I normally talk about the big thing at the end, but we'll flip-flop it this time for you guys. So really what it comes down to is hybrid. The Sequoia is hybrid only. I think if they had offered a non-hybrid Sequoia like what they did with the Tundra, I would say that it wouldn't be sold out. And I really do mean that, because people love Toyota's new hybrid powertrains. They're very unique in this world, which might sound weird on the surface, but if you look at other manufacturers, they just don't, like, look at this segment, for example. Wagoneer, no hybrid. Tahoe, Yukon, same thing, no hybrid. Ford Expedition, no hybrid. So it's like if you want a full-size SUV with a hybrid, Toyota's the only option. And a lot of people want hybrids nowadays. It's not just the fuel economy, it's also just how it drives. That little boost you get right off the bat just makes the whole power band feel smoother overall, especially with these turbocharged engines that have to spool up the turbos. It really helps out in a major way. So there's that. That's kind of why I think that the Sequoia is something, because if you look at the Toyota Tundras, the hybrids are sold out. The Tacomas, the hybrids are sold out. It's the non-hybrids that aren't selling. And so I think that's really what's limiting Toyota with their other vehicles, is the fact that they don't have hybrids with all their cars. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I think if Toyota got rid of, at least out of the Tacoma and Tundra, if they got rid of the non-hybrid and only sold hybrids, they would still sell just as many cars they're selling now, maybe even more, if they just went all in. So there's my 2 cents on that. So even though this is expensive, right, especially for a Toyota, I mean, this is mid-80s and starts out at over 60 grand. Again, a big chunk of change. It's unique in the second, like right now I'm in EV mode. Now, again, being a traditional hybrid, it's not going to go that far in EV mode, but it still goes places. It still goes places. So when it comes to driving, suspension's comfortable. It's, you know, it's a nice ride. The seats are comfortable too. I think that they've done a good job with the generalized setup here, where it's smooth, it's pretty quiet, and everything's, the biggest thing about Toyota is everything's easy to use. They've got physical buttons for the stuff that you want physical buttons for the most part. They do miss a few things, like some of the safety tech to turn it off, you have to go into screens, but not the biggest deal. And then, yeah, everything just is in the place that it makes sense. I don't know, it's very logical. So it's a solid setup. The only, like, my personal take on the Sequoia, the only downside is, again, the third row compared to the competition, because competition has independent suspension in the rear, so that lowers everything, and then they don't have a battery pack. So it's like the reason why people buy this, the hybrid, is also the reason why people don't buy it. Funny enough, because it robs space back there. But yeah, that's a down. So third row's a downside, and then the other downside is some of this stuff does feel kind of like cheap and plasticky compared to the American cars that feel a little bit more solid. But the thing that's funny is the American cars, you put some miles on them and then the interiors look like crap, whereas this still looks good after some miles. So it's like you gotta pick your poison. Do you want more plastic and have it to look the same as it does today in 10 years, or do you want to have nicer materials but then it looks like crap after 2 days? Exaggerating a little bit, but you guys get the point. So let me know what you guys think about the new Sequoia, but I think it's solid, and I've said it in the past, I'll say it again, I think Toyota should just go all in on those hybrids.